Yes.
Good evening. I call this meeting to order at 7:03. Get a roll call, please.
Trustee Ingarrett.
Present.
Here.
Trustee Salahuddin.
Here.
Vice President Lee.
Here.
President Tahada.
Here. And are there any changes to the agenda, Ms. Presta?
Yes, we are going to remove item 14A and put it on a subsequent board meeting.
Okay. With that change, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have the approval of minutes.
Move to approve the minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 9, there is nothing to report out of closed session. And on to the April Student of the Month for the adult school, Mr. Bashirs.
Greetings, Board of Trustees. Can I remove this while I'm reading? Is that
You
fine?
may.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Greeting, Board of Trustees, Board President Tahada, Superintendent Presta, all the members of the Executive Cabinet. It's my pleasure to announce the JUHSD Student of the Month for April 2022, Ala Luta. Because we're hoping actually that Ala was able to get on YouTube and from where she is and could possibly be watching this. So the applause is, I'm sure, appreciated. Ala is a student in the district's adult school program, a true representative of what it means to be a stellar student, regardless of when in life we choose to strengthen our academic backgrounds by attending school. Ala is that rare student who joined our adult education program at the beginner level and persevered all the way through to the advanced level. Ala's advanced ESL teacher, Andrea Jesse, had this to say about Ala. Ala Luta is in my morning advanced ESL class and Audrey Wittig's evening intermediate ESL class. In initially visiting with Ala, we learned that she's from a small town in Ukraine, 60 miles out of Kiev. Ala is currently there taking care of the family, including her father, and shared that they turn off the lights every night to keep from being bombed by the Russian army. Even though this has been an emotional time, she's remained an excellent student, becoming a top student in the advanced class. She completes all of her work and is constantly asking for extra credit. She enjoys asking questions, grasping deeper conceptions of grammar, along with learning more about American history and democracy. She received a perfect score on her USCIS test and is a proud U.S. citizen. Ala's beginning ESL teacher, Stephanie Tang, writes, learning English can be daunting and frustrating for some students who, like Ala, were highly educated and well-employed back home, yet started a new language from square one. She has a lovely dignity of spirit and is always friendly and helpful to classmates, with a warm smile for everyone every day. Also, she makes the world's best cheese blini, and always brought them to me frozen to take home, giving me very careful cooking instructions with the precision of a pharmacist, how to heat, how hot the pan must be, etc. When I had the opportunity to share the news of her receiving the District Student of the Month for April, all I had this to say. Dear Mark Bashirs, I was very pleasantly surprised by your attention and very appreciative of it. I'm grateful to you and the teachers of our school. I love how she said our school. And the teachers of our school for your work and support, especially during this terrible time for Ukraine. My personal reflection, author Isabella Allende once wrote, we don't even know how strong we are until we're forced to bring that hidden strength forward. In times of tragedy, of war, of necessity, people do amazing things. The human capacity for survival and renewal is awesome. I believe Ala perfectly embodies this sentiment. Ala is represented here tonight by her son, Alex Nibbett, who receives this award. Alice, if we can, we'd like to get a picture with the board.
First, I'd like to ask especially if your mother's watching, I'd like to ask the board if they have any comments to make or wishes.
Sure.
I just want to make a, that was very moving and well said, Mr. Bashirs. I don't think anybody can top that. I mean, to continue to have an education and still be in a war-torn country is just, you know, I'm speechless, and I'm inspired by her, and thank you for being here to represent her and give her, please give your mom our best, and we wish your family well and safety back to the U.S., so.
Yeah, as well. Thank you for being here, obviously, and it's often overlooked, if not, it's not talked about enough, how much our district doesn't just educate students, but families, right? And the families are the backbone not only of our school districts, but our communities, our cities, our world. And our community being a very international community, like so many in our country and so many across the world, I think understanding the issues and the adversity, and firsthand seeing that, right? And being able to relate to other cultures and other communities in our community that put together, I think, what we want to promote and understand in our community means a lot. And so for me, to you, and of course, to your mother and your family, and of course, the nation of Ukraine and worldwide, I think, especially this week in looking at international solidarity, glad that, we're able to provide this and that you and your family are able to provide some strength and knowledge and wisdom to our community as well. So congratulations, thank you.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that and just say, it's amazing how people can continue their lives in all kinds of circumstances, and the strength that your mother is showing to continue to not allow the world and its problems and challenges to get in the way of her education is just phenomenal. And so, I'm extremely proud that we were able to assist her in any way possible with that. And we all wish we could do more, but just knowing that we could do this little piece just kind of warms my heart. So I hope she can see this and hear our words and our support, and thank you so much for being here in her state.
Yes. Congratulations to your mother for being able to do what she's doing, and just my honor and respect to her for being there. I mean, and for us as a district for this thing to be very personal to us because of her. So thank you to her and to your family.
All of you, gosh, you've hit all of it. Your mother's inspirational. You and your family are inspirational. Her story, she is a reason why that we're doing what we're doing. If we can help in any way, that's why we're here. And she helps make this district what it is. So, God, I'm just beyond inspired. I'm so scared. I'm so scared for her. But what an amazing woman. And thank you for being here. Thank you for being here with us. And we'd like to get a picture with you, if that's okay. Okay.
Maybe if she's watching, when she does return, I think we all want a class on how to make cheese wheels.
And leave a picture with her when she's done.
Most definitely. You get to stand up.
Right.
Tall guys.
Stand next to Mr. Bashir's, all the tall guys.
I'm embarrassed.
It's good. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, thank you. Congratulations to your mom.
Delicate, smell it. No, you can't smell it. You smell it?
I believe you.
You didn't wash they were just the ones from my dishwasher?
Okay.
I believe you.
And now for communications. What's going on? Behave. You're being televised.
I forgot he snorted. There's soap in the water accidentally.
Okay.
I'm being poisoned.
So with our board report, Ms. Angara, do you have anything to report?
I guess since there's no student trustees tonight, I have the honor of going first. I'll try to remember all the things I was going to say, so I will do my best to message accordingly. I just want to say I did a brief visit to Denise Miss Shreve's CTE event the other Friday at Skyline College and for the North County CTE Next Steps event, and it was wonderful. It was lots of students from South City, from our school district, lots of speakers with workshops, a lot of enthusiastic students that want to kind of figure out what they want to do after high school and get some guidance on that. So it was wonderful to see that, and I was proud to be invited and be able to go and actually experience it myself and actually talk to students and teachers. So it was really nice, and Ms. She's always puts on a great event as well as giving out great swag. So one amongst many. So thank you, and I do use the water bottle all the time when I'm traveling for work. So. And then also on another note, I would just like to acknowledge that it is Asian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and as an immigrant personally myself, I sometimes immerse in this in my community for so long that sometimes I have to acknowledge where I come from also, and thank my parents for all the dedication and sacrifice that they made for myself, my brother, and my sister to be here and live in this country, to be away from their family, from what they know, not speaking the language here, and having to go to ESL, adult school. I believe my dad actually went to Westmore, somewhere around here at one point. So I don't acknowledge that much as I should, but I am proud to be a Chinese American and proud to be the daughter of my parents. So I want to acknowledge that. And also there's been lots of, I don't want to steal the thunder, there's been lots of talk about the moving in of the staff and teacher housing, faculty housing this weekend. And I saw that Trustee Lee and Trustee Tejada was there to welcome all the new tenants, in which is such an exciting event. And I just want to say personally that I am so honored to just be a small part of the impact that this has made for our community, for the teachers and staff to be able to have affordable housing within our community. As you know, we can't do this without you, so thank you. And I think this is just a small piece of all the other things that we need to do to then make this right, and for all the well-deserving teachers and staff that work and want to live here and be here and educate my children and our community's children. So I'm really honored to just be here and be part of that change. So, and there's lots more to say, but I'll just leave it at that this time. So thank you.
Mr. Ochapinti.
Yeah. First off, it is May, and so recognizing that this is the last month of the year, and it is Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, there's a lot that comes with the end of the school year that I feel is both kind of sad as things come to an end, but kind of inspiring as we get ready for the next year. And so just reflecting as a teacher and a trustee on our first year back to in-person learning and seeing how our students have adapted, seeing what resilience really means, and kind of pushing what we talk about when we talk about empathy and understanding where our students are coming from in terms of our grading policies, in terms of promoting equity in education through ethnic studies, in terms of engaging what that actually means on the ground in our communities, and defending our spaces, and expanding our spaces for those who have the least, those who are most vulnerable in our communities, and especially those in our district who need those resources, whether it was meal distribution in the early stages of the pandemic and even through this day, in terms of housing and everything else that we should be advocating for in terms of affordable housing, and not in advocacy for market rate housing, which was largely vacant, if not exclusionary of our community throughout the pandemic and currently. And so looking at all the issues that our youth are engaging, and just kind of taking that in as an educator and as a public official, I think it's important to reflect on our duties and our priorities. Was not able to make the workshop on the LCAP and the budget this weekend, but I think it's important for our community to have a voice in these discussions and what our priorities are as a district. And so to that effect, there are a few things that I just want to note. One, a lot of our students were involved in Earth Day celebrations and demonstrations around the Bay Area. Here in Daly City and San Francisco, we had students from Daly City and Pacifica, and as well as San Francisco and, of course, Oakland with a strong turnout. I think it's been really empowering to see the entire Bay Area kind of come together around not just climate justice, but what that means in terms of social justice and what we're trying to promote here, not only in the Bay Area, but in California and nationwide. That said, just a quick note, as many have heard, the leaked internal brief with the Supreme Court. There's a lot of concern around Roe versus Wade and reproductive rights and what that means. Being somebody who is pro-choice and supporting rights of women to choose, I feel like a lot of the work that we have as educators is in helping our students understand what their role is, not just in learning these things, but also in playing a role in promoting that awareness and being a part of that conversation and defending a woman's right to choose. And in terms of gender equity, seeing a lot of protests in our district as well, and district-wide and Bay Area-wide, I think the work that we're doing with the Daly City Youth Health Center and a lot of the work we're doing with, of course, all of our curriculum in terms of equity should definitely incorporate this as a part of discussions as we close the year. I think one of the things as a school board member in the last few years, seeing equity a big part of our discussions means we have to be practicing what we preach. And so when we look at policies and watching the news, to feel empowered means that we're not just being told what's going to happen, but that we have some agency in being a part of that and changing where that goes. And so I just wanted to say that because that was really important, I think, to note that, and seeing a lot of voices on social media speak up to defend those civil and human rights. In addition to that, it was May Day weekend. I think one of the things I've noticed in terms of education as an educator who is part of strike, a one-day strike in Oakland, supporting basically keeping our schools open and fighting school closures is really important because we're facing similar issues across districts, big and small, not just here in the state of California, but nationwide. So understanding that there are budget concerns around education is one thing, but organizing to take a stand and find alternative solutions that keep our schools open and refuse to privatize our schools is where we should be. And so it was good to see that Oakland Unified and many school districts did take that stand and work with the International Longshore Worker Union to shut down the Port of Oakland for a day and make a statement that our schools are not for sale. We say no to gentrification, no to privatization, and these are decisions that we should be promoting and conversations we should be having in every district, especially hard-hit districts like ours, who are facing these decisions, but absolutely should have them with community input. That said, the workshop this weekend did feature one item on the agenda around the strategic plan for our district. I did receive emails from several concerned staff and community members who were upset that part of that strategic plan, one, is aiming to eliminate a garden from Thornton High School and community space there, but also, more importantly perhaps, they were not consulted at all. And so I think, one, that it was inappropriately placed on that agenda. That was supposed to be a meeting about our LCAP and our budget. And two, having at a meeting in late April, at this time of the year, is completely an inappropriate venue to have a discussion with nobody able to attend our meeting necessarily in person on a Saturday morning. So I think, one, that just to reassure people who weren't able to attend, that was not an action item. No action has been taken or can be taken until that is actually considered a regular board meeting. And certainly there's a large process that addresses not just Thornton High School, but every high school in our district, which had a blueprint or a layout for renovations presented, but not discussed by anybody necessarily in the community. That said, I was not intense in the meeting, but it did not look like we had any community input, and I would look forward to discussing that with the community and hearing the input from our staff and especially our students and families before anything moves forward past the blueprint. That said, happy Teacher and Educator Appreciation Week and Month. I think it's important to recognize the contributions of our district community. Good luck to our students, of course, on AP tests and finals and everything else coming up. It is May. And with all these changes in our schools, I think it's important just to, to honor and recognize that we have a lot of work to do in our schools that's happening. And seeing all NSF at Jefferson High School this weekend, I wasn't able to make it myself, but seeing it online was really encouraging to see that we're building with community-based organizations towards community schools, and definitely should start that along the Mission Corridor, and I think throughout Daly City, Pacifica, and all of the city and communities in our district. And looking forward, of course, to our workforce housing event and centennial event next Friday here at Center Mine Del Rey, and raising the issues in our community that a lot of people have had a lot of things to say about, including our garden and the future of Center Mine Del Rey itself. And to that effect, I'll leave it there, and that's it for me today.
Thank you. Ms. Salahuddin?
Hi, yes. So I did attend the work study on Saturday. So I first want to thank all the staff and for being there and really laying out a really good overview of, the next couple of years for us, especially with our LCAP and our budget. It's really important for us to have that level of understanding. I mean, looking at the fiscal health of the districts that are around us currently, and the impact that the ongoing pandemic is having, especially with the level of expense that we're having to continue to output as a district. I think really having a thorough understanding of our goals and how the budget comes into play is extremely important as a board member, and is a very important meeting that we should all have attended. I also want to say that at that meeting, the presentation was on our needs assessment, falls right in line with the board budget and with the LCAP, because all those things come into play. And it was just a report out of the assessment. There was no decisions being made, so it was perfectly appropriate to have a work study, a review of the initial review of the needs assessment. And the entire needs assessment is based on input from the community. So there was tons of community input, and if the needs assessment was reviewed, you could easily see that it has input from faculty, staff, students, et cetera. So I'm glad that we have that first foot forward and really trying to think in a less of a reactionary way to filling or repairing, and more a visionary way of what kind of schools do we imagine for our students, and seeing if that's possible. So I was glad that we were able to have that discussion or start that discussion, and hope to continue discussion moving forward. I was also at the student trustee and student advisory committee meeting yesterday. They're in the middle of AP testing, which is why they're not here tonight. And we wish them all luck in studying for AP testing and final. But that was a really good meeting. I also attended the progress seminar this weekend, which is a conference that's attended by most elected officials in San Mateo County, along with business leaders and other community-based organizations. And a lot of the discussion was grounded around education and children, which was a huge change, and it was very welcome. And it was nice to be in the room and really kind of finally have the discussion about we all need to be worried and have a stake in the educational future of our community. Like, it can't always just be up to school board members and district administration to figure everything out. And while I'm proud of the district that we were able to build our workforce housing, it should have never been our responsibility in the first place. The ongoing issues with SDR, while I am fully in support of continuing to move forward, like, we should not have been put in this position in the first place. And we're working with the tools that we have been dealt. I will continue to use the tools I've been dealt to provide the resources that are necessary for us to support our students, to support our students, because one of the things that came up there is, you're talking about greetings, and someone brought up an African greeting in Nigeria where they don't say hello, they say, how are the children? And right now, we know the answer is not well. And so we need to have the support of and be able to hold up our teachers and our staff and our administrators, because everybody knows that during this pandemic, JUHSD was the hub in Daly City. This is where you came to get everything. And I don't know what's going to happen if there's another pandemic and we can't hold the city up again. So I'm going to do everything in my power in line with Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week. I feel the best way to appreciate our staff is to do my role as a school board member and to do everything that is possible to support them. I am proud of this district and to be a member, and I'm looking forward to continue working together in the future.
First, thanks to Ms. Garrett for bringing up API Heritage Month, because she and I share the same ethnicity, which is Chinese Indonesian. And a few weeks back, I was actually able to visit my immigrant parents who now live up outside of Portland, Oregon. And it's been roughly a year since I saw them, and my daughter Margaret came up with me. And what was cool was the day before we left, my mother was giving her some batik clothing and letting her try it on. And it was actually pretty cool. And for Margaret, it was actually a really big deal, because she was finally able to connect with her Indonesian heritage just through the clothes. It was a really powerful moment to watch for me as a father, as she got to try these on. So that was pretty cool. And in light of this month, I just wanted to share that particular vignette with you all. With regards to the work study, I thought that was a fantastic meeting. And related to the needs assessment, I think what was really powerful about that discussion is the fact that we were able to talk about it in terms of tying it with the demographic study with which we had just been presented with at the prior board meeting. And also, related to the questions that came up related to one of the sites, it was really clear that this is just it was just a placeholder. It was just to see, could that particular building be placed in the context of that campus? No decisions have been made, and it was really just to be able to see a full laundry list of what would everything cost if everything that was presented to us was actually to be built. And we all know that there are the needs, there's the wish list, and if you put it all together, we can't afford all of that. And so it was really good to be able to see that. I mean, these are still just drawings, they're just concepts. There's been no recommendation made by architects or our own staff on whether to move forward with any of this. And again, if you were present at that meeting, you would have been fully aware of this particular discussion. And finally, Saturday and Sunday. Two of the best days I have personally had as a school board member in this district, because to be able to be there Saturday morning and Sunday morning with President Tejada, to welcome home so many of our educational staff, certificated and classified, to see the smiles on their faces knowing that they finally had housing security, to see their children running around the building like they owned the building. And you know what? Yeah, they do. Actually, they do, because it's their home. To be able to share a cup of coffee with them and hear their stories, to share a donut with them and hear their stories. And I just got to say, massive, massive, massive props to Austin Warden for the work he has done in partnership with Boulevard, in partnership with Stephanie Phillips, another rock star. And actually watching Darnell run around on Sunday, already owning his key holder position, and working with the Boulevard staff, looking at all the different units and what are the things that still need to be fixed up. I mean, there's still a lot of work to be done, but it was really nice to see that. What was number 17? I think 19 this weekend. 19 of our staff and their families moved in. And it was just such a wonderful, wonderful sight to see. And even just coming to the meeting and hearing from our staff that, coming into this building, suddenly there's traffic outbound at 7:30 in the morning because, oh, wait, we've got people who live here now and who are commuting to their sites. I mean, all of these stories are just fantastic. And to already hear from some of them that communities are being built already, that whole families are connected. And I didn't even realize how many of our own staff who are now living there are alumni of our district. And that's just a powerful, powerful thing to hear. It was heartbreaking to hear some of their stories, but just grateful that we as a collective, as a community, were able to build that building out there that will house 122 of our families. And so thank you to our voters who supported the bond measure in 2018. Thank you to our incredible staff for the work. Thank you to my colleagues up here for continuing to have the vision to move forward with this, and we never gave it up. Jefferson Union High School District is synonymous with educator housing. They hear that name, they know that we're the ones who got this going 20 years after the last district had done it. And Ms. Tina Van Raphorst, without you driving the day-to-day, I don't know where we'd be. So again, massive, massive thank you and props to you.
Thank you. Oh, boy.
Call out too that it is also Jewish American. I mean, it's also Jewish Heritage Month as well.
Ah,
So if we're gonna name one, we should name
yes,
it.
absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's good to be back. I've been missing because I broke my foot, but I didn't know it was broken until I was walking on it for 3 weeks, so there you go. And I also had a death in my family. So there's a lot of loss going on for me. It's really good to be back. I actually was going to try to go to that work study because there's nothing like being in person. I mean, and it was that agenda. To me, it was so exciting that I would be able to, get it in person from our staff who worked so hard on it, and then seeing the presentations. I always enjoy hearing it directly from them because you can interact. There's nothing like it. But my son, he insisted that I stay home, and he said, "Mom, you're crazy. You cannot walk." I said, "I'll just be sitting for a few hours." And they said, "No, you can't go." But I'm glad, Chelsea, thank you for this. I am going to look it over because I actually have the first crazy facilities master plan that we had like many years ago. I still have that. I don't know. You did such a great job filling in for me. I mean, you're ending these meetings so fast. I think maybe I'm sorry if it goes long. I don't think I can top that. But I also, so my first in-person board-related thing that I went to was to thank you for picking me up and taking me over to the faculty and staff housing, because even though I told you I'm not okay today, I'm almost okay, because I've learned it's okay to say I'm not okay, which I probably have never said before, despite all of the losses I've had over the last few years. I've never said I'm not okay. But I want to thank you for bringing me over because that was so uplifting for me to be around and to see the fruits of our labor, collective labor, and to meet people like Darnell, who actually went to high school. He was a senior and my son was a sophomore at Westmore. So it's nice to see him come through and come through, our community and from starting down there and actually, from the elementary. I'm from Daly City, so he went to Thomas Edison, Fernando. He was probably at Fernando the same time my son was. I mean, it just felt so much like family, and it was just good to be breathing the same air as them. And so I'm looking forward to the centennial and for the ribbon cutting. And Austin, so awesome. We are going to be singing your praises after that as well, I'm sure. But thank you for all your hard work. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Presta.
Thank you. So I have a lot to say tonight. I want to first you've been called out already, but I want to really acknowledge my staff for last Saturday's study session. I think it was last Saturday. So I was gone for 2 weeks because I caught COVID. But that was my entree back. And so it was a great day. We had Ms. Baca presented on the LCAP, Ms. Van Rapport presented on the budget, Ms. Basuino, and Tiffany, I've lost your last name. Tiffany Hong, thank you, presented the solution matrix along with Monica Casey. And then we had the facilities master plan that also was our business department and an architect. And so I am on a daily basis proud of my team and of our district. But that was just a real shining example of people giving up their Saturdays to come and really do hard work for the good of our district. So thank you. So it was a really great work study. I too was at the faculty and staff housing Saturday and Sunday mornings for a brief time both days. I want to thank Ms. Van Rapport for bringing donuts, I think, and coffee, et cetera, on Saturday. And then I don't know who brought the coffee and donuts on Sunday. Andy brought them on Sunday. I just got to eat donuts on both days. So again, like honestly, I was crying. I mean, it was tear-jerking to hear the stories of gratitude from our employees talking about their lives and what this means for them. And so again, so very proud of the vision of our board and of the work of our staff making this happen. I'm just so proud of us. We had a great training last Monday night with all of our administrators on the solution matrix. So you are going to hear more about it tonight. You heard about it at the work study. We've had at the school sites, the team has been at every school site to talk with the school sites. Similarly with the LCAP, Ms. Baca and her team at the school site. So there's a lot of outreach that we're doing, and I'm just really, really proud of that. We're not working in a vacuum at all. Andy and I were at the Daly City DCPLA, the Poet Laureate event last week. We have Madeline Herr is the outgoing Daly City Poet Laureate. Chloe Chow is going to be the incoming Poet Laureate. We're going to be inviting them to a board meeting to acknowledge them. It was a great event. Victoria Magbilong and DCPLA have just done a wonderful thing with this. And so again, super proud to be there and to see our students being recognized. I was at Oceana for a long time. Was it this week? It was only yesterday. Yeah, days are long these days. And I just, it's always great when I'm in schools and in classrooms, but there was something. It was just firing yesterday. Like I complimented Miss Holland and was just like so impressed. Every classroom that I went into, asked a question, what are you doing? Like the teacher principal in me kind of goes over and starts talking with the kids. And our students are remarkable. The teachers had wonderful lessons happening. The students were fully engaged, were very interested in the topics and wanted to tell me about what they were doing. And again, very, very proud of us. And the student advisory meeting last night was wonderful. And I also wanted to, Ms. Salahuddin mentioned it, but they've got AP exams, and so that's why they're not here tonight. But they were there last night, reviewing the board agenda with us and having other topics. That was great. Let's see. I'm looking forward to the centennial celebration and the ribbon cutting. Another celebration of the greatness of our district. That's awesome. And I just want to say, I want to mention that there's a lot going on in the world. My son happens to be in Washington, D.C. with his 8th grade class. And was on CNN today and in the Washington Post. So I'm kind of proud of my activist son getting involved in the topics of the day. And then finally, I wanted to remind everybody, we did send out an email to the district. We did post it on our website, but I want to remind everyone that tonight is the first time that we are having Spanish interpretation of our board meetings. It is, I'm going to read a little blurb. The meeting will be interpreted into Spanish. It's possible through interpretation, which is the verbal rendering of a message from one language into other languages. We're using simultaneous interpretation, in which speakers and interpreters speak almost simultaneously, with the interpreters lagging only a few seconds behind. With that, fast talker wants to remind all of us to maybe not talk as fast as we normally might, because it's really a difficult thing. But we really want to promote language justice in our district. So I'm, again, very proud of us for doing this. And that is it for me.
Thank you. EFT Local 1481 report, Ms. Casey.
Good evening, everyone. I want to say happy Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week, 2 weeks. I appreciate all of you who include teachers and staff, because as you know, our union is not just teachers. We include a whole range of staff, psychologists, counselors, paraprofessionals, custodians, office staff. So I know that each group has its own kind of week, but it kind of drives me insane when they say Teacher Appreciation Week, because there's so many other educators. I really think that, you know, there's a lot of different levels of education. And even though we may not think that a custodian is an educator in our district, they are educators. They make connections with students, which our students really need right now. They may be the person that when a student needs a break from a class is the person that they can go to and say, hello, I just needed a break, I just need some water, and is the shoulder and ear that that person can interact with. And we need all of our adults to be those educators. So I want to appreciate those people. And I also want to appreciate the treats that the staff is getting this week. I know a lot of sites are having a lot of treats, and they're very excited about it. Last week, so busy. I was substitute teaching, which makes my heart full, for a dance class at Jefferson.
Oh.
And, you know, like, I was doing it multiple days. So by the third day, I kind of was getting in my groove again. It was so wonderful to be with the students and to see their faces and recognize them in the hallways. And so that was something that kept me very busy last week, along with CFT. Had an executive council meeting, and I participate in that probably monthly, which means that on Saturday morning, I was scheduled to be in that meeting, and then when it got canceled, I was just about to come to the housing, and I was really excited about it, and then I realized I just had too much on my plate, and it was just one thing that I needed to let go. So, because on Sunday, I went to the May Day Workers' March downtown, and some of our members joined me. It was very, very fun and exciting, and, you know, seeing Amazon starting to unionize, the workers of Amazon starting to unionize, and some of the other kind of bigger bigger corporations, and they're getting a lot of pushback. So I really appreciate that our district wants us to have a union and thinks it's healthy to have the union instead of trying to push us down. So I appreciate you all for that. Speaking of which, we are starting negotiations tomorrow, and there's been a lot of work leading up to this. It's just for the 1 year. We already did the 3-year negotiations, but these are the updates for this year coming up. And I hope those go smoothly and quickly. So, thank you.
So we have a request from our translator asking us to slow down and speak clearly and look at the mic when we're speaking so that they can translate properly and have an easier time. So I will try to do that myself. Okay. And now for our consent agenda items. Oh, I'm sorry. Their COVID-19 response update. Ms. Jones, thank you. Thanks for the reminder.
Going to try and speak slowly. A fast talker, too. Good evening, board. It's nice to see you all again. Here's your update. According to the San Mateo County Department of Health, COVID-19 cases continue to rise in San Mateo County and the Bay Area region. As I mentioned in April, JUHSD is mirroring the county, and we are seeing a similar trend. In January, we had 443 positive cases reported. In February, we had 103 positive cases reported. In March, we had a total of 18 cases reported. In April, we had 155 cases reported. And as of today, we have 39 positive cases reported for May. And this is the 3rd. Based on this increase in cases and the return of proms to our schools, we've taken a proactive approach and I provided a 2-pack of at-home rapid antigen tests to all of our prom participants. We're asking the students to take an at-home test prior to the event and again 3 to 5 days following the event. We have been allocated an additional set of at-home tests by the state and are awaiting their delivery. As we currently have tests available, we believe the best thing we can do is to provide easy access to rapid tests, as well as encourage masking at each school site. Each of our school sites has access to rapid testing on site, and we will make at-home tests available to our staff who report a positive case so they can easily test at home before returning to our work sites. That's my update.
Thank you. And now for our consent agenda.
Move to approve consent.
Actually, I'd like to pull a few items from consent.
All right.
Just briefly, 12A1.1.
And that
Well-
is, okay.
Our translation and interpretation services. And 12C1 and 12C2.
Okay.
That's it.
So with those items pulled, I move to action.
Move to approve with those changes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And so I would just like to note that under the personnel action report, we have a few faculty and staff who've been with us for a long time and are now retiring. Mr. Hammond, Westmore, he'd been there a science teacher for 25 years. Gloria Guevara, our paraprofessional aide, 15 years. And Pat Ramos here in the district office, 14 years. I don't know what we're going to do without her, but Thank you all so much for your service. Okay. And do we have any public comment?
No.
No, all right. Gosh. I'm sorry, I'm a little rusty. Okay, so we are going to go to our discussion items, and that would be 14B, the solution matrix.
I'm sorry.
You want
So
to?
so if we pulled off the consent agenda, we've got the two vice principal
know.
candidates here.
I
Do you
know.
wanna do those?
How do people feel about that? Do you, I
do
think
that.
technically they're supposed to go to action items, but,
Yeah,
I think we should do them before the
Do them
discussion.
now?
item.
I think we
Yeah.
don't want to make
okay,
them sit here
yes,
all
let's
night.
do that. Okay,
That's
so,
okay.
yeah, that's fine. And then will the other one,
The other-
12A11, the
You wanna put that
contract?
to action?
Yeah, we'll put that to action. How's that? Okay. So,
So essentially, these are just two action items happening before the others.
yes,
Yeah.
so we've got, so Mr. Ojapinti pulled these two administrative appointments. Is there something you would like to discuss? You have any questions about?
Well, I mean, just, of course, Superintendent Presta mentioned this earlier, and something I noted too, because this was a future agenda item that we had been delayed till this point of the year. So it's good to see that we have and want to welcome our translator and interpreter.
This is the two vice principal appointments
Right.
that we're discussing.
I was going in the order of the items I pulled. Are we gonna,
We just said that we're moving the contract to action, and but because we have our two VPs
Sure.
here now, we'd like to discuss those human resources appointments.
sure, yeah, it's part and parcel of why I asked for these items to be pulled, is proper welcoming to two new vice principals here for Westmore High School. I think, and I would like to hear from, of course, Tina and Sterling, if you have anything you want to offer to our board in terms of experience, if you want, our community is definitely,
Mr. Ochapinti, we met with them in closed session. Okay, so I know you missed that, but.
Yes, I did.
So did you have questions about the actual appointment? Because if you are agreeing to appoint them,
Shouldn't have pulled it off.
should not have pulled it off.
no, I'm actually
Because
just.
then
no,
later on,
no,
to
to be
a
clear,
moment, I'm speaking here.
please
So,
continue, yeah.
because later on, once we've appointed them, as we normally do, we ask if they'd like to share anything in open session.
So, motion to approve items 12C1 and 12C1.
Okay,
Can we just approve both?
let's approve both.
Motion to approve items 12C1 and 12C2.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So then now
We're
so
confusing them.
We're confusing them.
This is really irregular.
This is
I
very
apologize.
unusual. So I'm going to ask you at this time, I would like to welcome Dr. Sterling Huff. And also, I'm just going to recognize you right now, and then one at a time, you can come up. And so then we're also recognizing our other vice principal for Westmore High School, Tina, soon to be Yi. Yes? Okay, so Dr. Huff, if you'd like to come up to the mic, and if you have anything you'd like to say.
So we really just want to welcome you so very much and tell you how happy we are to have you join as well.
Yes, yes.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Hello, board. Thank you for having me here, and thank you for welcoming me to joining your family. And I really appreciate the opportunity and the experience, and to support our community. And in this process, hopefully, I can grow as a professional as well. And I appreciate getting to know the district persons and see how I have been supported by Dana and by many of the admins here already. So I appreciate that process. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. Now, do you have something you'd like to ask him?
Of course. Well, I mean, he's already spoken. That's what I was asking for. So thank you for being a part of the district, and of course, looking forward to you being here and being a Westmore alum. I'm very proud to see that we have representation that I feel like our community would will definitely build rapport with and continue to build with here in Daly City. So thank you and welcome to our district.
Right, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, welcome again. Nice to see you again.
I'll bring it closer. Hello, board members, district members, community. Hello. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I feel fortunate, like I said earlier, that it really does feel like it's returning home, even though it's a new space, even though it's new individuals. Having the fortunate series of events that I worked with Sterling back at Skyline, and then coming back to a district or serving students that I am getting to know better. But I'm excited to be a part of this journey and excited to get to know you guys a lot more deeper. Thank you.
Thank you,
Welcome.
welcome.
Yeah. Questions for me?
Any questions? No.
I mean, I would say the same. I mean, thank you for being here, of course. Any questions you have for us, feel free. We'll be here. So thank you.
Thank you very
you.
much.
Tina. Okay. And you guys are free to stay, but we don't expect you to.
Yes, exactly. Oh,
There you go. Thank you.
oh. All right.
Thanks, Austin.
Now for our discussion items, solution matrix.
Right. Good evening, President Tejada, members of the board. Tonight, a group of the JUHSD staff have been meeting for the last 2 years to explore the creation of a less punitive, more equitable, and restorative process to address discipline in schools. This group has been working to create the framework for what we are currently calling a solution matrix, which is a tool to help school administrators assess higher level conflicts, respond equitably, to them, and identify and address root causes to prevent harm. So we've been working with Tiffany, and I say we, Monica, myself, and Tiffany, and Monica and I have been out on spending time at all the school sites all day and trying to get feedback from staff, and we've met with families and parents and students. And like I said, we brought it to Saturday's study session, and then we just wanted to bring it here again, just do a quick overview and bring it for discussion tonight as well. It's all yours, Tiff.
Thanks, Doreen. Appreciate it. Build teamwork. Good evening, board. It's nice to see you all again. Thank you for having me back, and thank you, Monica and Doreen, for all of your hard work in putting this matrix together. So, yeah, let me go ahead and give you kind of an overview of what we have been working on.
Can you try to stick have the mic closer? That's all. Thank you. No, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's
Don't
not my
be
height.
self-conscious.
Okay, there's 2 screens. Can I click? Oh, there we go. All right, so yes, the purpose of today is to share with you all what we have been working on in regards to the solution matrix. We started this process about 2 years ago and have been working through the pandemic and beyond to create a new system for the district. And so we've been, since putting it together in its draft form, have been going around to gather input and feedback from educators and the staff union, from student trustees who gave us a lot of valuable input, shared it at the different sites where Doreen and Monica sat for almost like a full day at each school for staff to drop in and provide their input, shared it with most of you at the Saturday study session, and also held a kind of community meeting in an evening with parents and families. And so the starting point in creating a new solution matrix, and I'll share with you why we call it the solution matrix, is essentially this idea that every system is designed to get the results that it gets. And so our starting point in the kind of impetus of what started for us to create this solution was the disproportionate discipline, and seeing that the way that we resolve conflicts now, if at all, doesn't work because these issues and conflicts continue to arise. And so in looking at the current system, that's where we started our work. We started off by looking at what currently exists. And when we look at traditional discipline matrices, and we critically analyze it, we see that there's fundamentally in its design some flaws. The first is that when you look at these behaviors and you look at the next columns, there's consequences for when something happens the first time, the second offense, and then the third offense, which here you're automatically assuming that it's going to happen again. So that means we administrators, students, and staff are ultimately set up for success because something is missing here if we assume that it's just going to happen again. And so we take this analogy and apply it also into looking at the moldy bread analogy, which is oftentimes in schools a conflict arises and we want to cut off the mold, similar to when my dad tells me, there's cantaloupe in the refrigerator and you can eat it, but it's moldy. And I'm like, it's molded, Dad, you can't eat it. And he's like, no, you can, just cut off the mold and you can still eat it. Little did I know until learning it in science class that when there's mold on a piece of food, the roots are actually invisible. And so even when you cut off the mold, it's going to keep growing. So similar to schools, when we try to cut off the mold, it's just going to keep growing if we don't look at what the root causes are. And oftentimes the root causes are invisible. And so with this new solution matrix, we're like, let's do something different and actually try to understand what the root causes are. And maybe some administrators do this now or they attempt to, but it's not always woven into the actual system and the practice itself. So we said we need to codify this with the intention, am I talking fast? With the intention that when we address conflicts, we want to look at the restoration, right? Who was impacted by this incident, both directly involved, but also the community. We also wanted to look at equity, right? Anytime somebody does something, it's for a different reason, but we expect to respond to it in the same way. That's not going to work. So we need to look at responses that are needs-based and equitable and fair. And then also we want to look at how do we prevent these conflicts from arising again in the future. And so this led us to creating a solution framework that includes 4 stages that all administrators would follow. The first would be to, once a conflict arises, to assess the situation, meeting with all of the individuals involved. The second is then to respond. Oftentimes we respond before we assess. The third is to address and also identify the root causes. And the fourth step is to actually put into place measures to prevent the situation from occurring again in the future. So what that looks like in practice, I'll share with you a little bit. I'll share with you the discipline and solution matrix after this. But a few disclaimers to note that there are still non-negotiables when it comes to Ed Code in terms of mandatory recommendation for expulsion. Suspension is still an option in terms of a response, but we want to look at what the intention is for suspension. And most times it's because sometimes we just need a cooling off period, or sometimes we just need to make sure that the situation is safe. But suspension in and of itself is not a solution. And we also need to recognize the impact of removing students from school. This is for administrators' use only. So it won't have a lot of impact on the classroom, but we want to continue looking at preventative strategies in the classroom and look at how teachers and staff can have their own processes as well. But this is meant for higher level intensity situations. This is a draft, so it's going to continue to be a living and breathing document. We want to be thoughtful about how we introduce this at each site, and also there are other districts who are exploring this process of creating a new discipline and solution matrix. So, what does this matrix look like? What does it say, Jake? Allow? Sure. Okay.
Sure. Test it out. Yeah, I'm here.
All right. So imagine a conflict. Let's see. So let's imagine a conflict arises. So what an administrator would do is that they would go into this kind of Google Drive folder, and they would open up first this planning document. Still in draft form, got a lot of input from the recent admin meeting, so we're going to be revamping lots of it. And so they would look at, how do I zoom? There we go. Zoom. All right. So they would have a conflict, and so they would fill in these couple of steps here, right? What is the conflict? Provide a brief description. They would look for the problem behavior that is associated with ed code in the solution matrix. So they can click here to the solution matrix. And essentially, you know, there's some standard language there, talks about the approach. But what you see here is the matrix is broken up into different behaviors. And, there we go. So there's a section on academics, there is a section on weapons, and there's a section that's categorized around harm to person or harm to people. And so all of these problem behaviors were pulled out from the ed code and kind of codified here. And then every column has a stage that says assess, response, address root cause, and then prevent. And so when we look at, for instance, maybe there's something around direct profanity, then we would kind of describe the conflict, put direct profanity and the ed code there, which should be helpful for the administrators when kind of escalating situations. Names of the students involved, the date and the incident, and then they would start going down kind of this table here. So looking at the assess stage, where they're going to type in what solution they selected. For direct profanity, there's actually just one option. But if you go down to the solutions here, you see that there's a total of 3 different options based on the intensity of the conflict and the type of conflict itself. So there's the incident assessment practice, there's the San Mateo County threat assessment procedure, there's initiate Title IX where appropriate. But for that first problem behavior, option 1 would be the way to go because that's the one we assess would be most appropriate, which is the incident assessment along with other kind of to-dos for administrators. And then once that assessment piece is done, they would kind of write down different notes that they uncovered, follow through with some of these action items, and then move on to step 2, which is the response. And so you see in the matrix here, step 2 with response, there's a couple of options. There's options 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 10. So they would go down to the response stage and look at options 1, 2, 3, 5, and 10, which is things that they have to do every time, a student written reflection, maybe a restorative conversation, perhaps a mindful meeting, which is a facilitated conversation between 2 or 3 people. Maybe a solution circle is needed, like a broader restorative justice practice. Temporary school removal might still be an option and necessary. And then 9 and 10 would be immediate suspension and mandatory recommendation for expulsion. I don't know if that was an option. I think it went straight to 10. And 10 was connect impacted community members to trauma support and resources. So you see how every stage there are options, and based on what you uncover from the previous stage is going to help to inform what to do next. So every solution or step of the way is tailored to that specific incident, which is where the equity piece comes in. And of course, when you move on to the next stage, there's identify and address root cause, different number of resources here to choose from, and then the same with prevention. So administrators will be required to go through every single step to know that we are looking at the root causes, we are looking at how to prevent these things in the future. And I think I might stop there. I don't know where the slides went anyway, so that's a good talking point.
All right.
Yeah, and I would just say to add on to that, we have received a lot of feedback. Some of the key points were around kind of looking at the system in a whole to make it successful. So we'll need some type of communication system that's like rapid response, so staff are informed how situations are being addressed. Syncing up synergy with this process also to make it easier for administrators, and also that we will need to have a common language around these underlying principles so all staff understand what's being done, why we're taking this approach, and how it's imperative for the student success. And in the study session, we talked a lot about kind of like rollout and capacity as well. And that rollout will need to be really intentional in terms of what we expect and how we set up the administrators for success. And other than that, we're going to continue to gather some more input. Students gave us some recommendations and maybe reaching out to alumni to share it. So yeah, we're going to continue to go on this journey.
Thank you. I'm going to open this up to the board if you have any questions for Tiffany. Mr. Ochapinti?
Yeah, thank you for obviously the work on this, and of course, the entire district has been a part of this, and presenting it tonight. I think it's really important for our community to understand what happens when you as a student, or you as a family, and your child, your teenage student gets in trouble or is involved in something. What is a consequence, and what is a response that can be restorative, where they can continue to move forward and learn from that experience. And of course, there being no better place than a school to be able to learn from those experiences, especially as minors. So I think the lessons that we are teaching should be embedded into our policies. Our policies should be, yes, an educational experience. Of course, there are some things that have legal consequences which should be addressed. And I think that's part of also understanding that prior to becoming an adult. So just to underscore the gravity and the importance of this as basically codifying, but leaving it open as a living document, current and I think trending and new responses and restorative responses for restorative justice in our schools. That said, I guess I have one question. I think my experience working in our community, not just this district, but some of our partner districts, Jefferson Elementary, seeing the work that Circle Up has done with our entire staff and the community has been very impactful. Seeing something like this is one of those things that I think really delivers on practicing what we preach and creating something a little more concrete that people can rely on to address the issues in our community in a proactive way, in a restorative way. And so I guess my first question would be, how is this looking locally in, I guess you could say, not just San Mateo County or North San Mateo County, but in the Bay Area in terms of your experience, and maybe even just with our partner districts in terms of building, say, community schools and patterning our practices across schools so that our students are looking forward to going to high school, from Palisada to Jefferson, to Westmore, to Oceana, to Terra Nova, Thornton, Shasta. Where do you see those conversations trending through this and beyond this, and in the outer or outside of our district in the inner Bay Area?
This honestly, getting to this point of the solution matrix has been like years in the making. And there are very few schools and districts that we are working with now that have been able to get to this point to actually look at putting practices into an actual system, right? Like they might be adopted and done at a specific school, or they might be done at the district level, but it hasn't been this like merger between let's work with the sites and get them where they need to be and help them to understand the learnings and the practice and implicit biases, and also to see that supported through the district level as well. And so I say all of that because in my mind, it's like, this is a pretty advanced step where we're at. And so in a way, we're almost leading the path and charge here. It's both exciting and also scary, but also exciting. And so, yeah, I definitely see to your question about like where the conversations are trending, like I see the students coming in, and there are students that I have interacted with at Westmore, for instance, and we're using the cue cards in a staff climate committee meeting, and they're like, wait, we had these at Fernando. Like, were you there too? Like, what is? And so it's following, I guess, to say. And that comes with a lot of student expectations, right? Of like staff listening to their needs and really being able to have that piece of student advocacy and student voice. Yeah.
Thank you. The second question I would have is just a quick follow-up. My observation as a teacher this year, my observation has been that a lot of students have struggled social emotionally with 2 years of distance learning, or a year and a half, of being, having a disrupted education in that sense. As much content and skill development as we can deliver as school districts to our students, either online or offline and in person, there are some things that are simply going to be missed in in-person interaction. And so with some incidents we're seeing even with, elementary and middle school, obviously, and as well as high school, is uptick in fights. And in terms of just social interaction between our students, what are we seeing? And I'm certain student trustees and students have had a large say in this as well. And student voice and student advocacy is a huge part of this, because these are the people that are most affected, and their peer groups are the most impactful when discussing this amongst each other. What have you heard from students in regards to social emotional development this year as we've returned to in-person learning, and how we can reshape these policies, or what parts stand out the most?
In regards to social emotional learning for students and where this applies, I mean, I feel like with the solution matrix, this is like the end, The social emotional learning should be done preventatively. And this is the part where like things did fall through the cracks, or it wasn't caught in time. And this is like where it's like boiling it up and coming to the surface. And so in one of the stages for the prevent stage and response, also and address root cause, I'm not even gonna try to fiddle with this right now. But in the stage that says address root cause, there is one option where it says like providing like additional social emotional learning or mental health support, or access to curriculum. Like if a student is struggling with coping with their feelings or having anger challenges, that we can recommend a course to them, specifically to them, or support groups. And also, as we address those root causes, the stage of prevention too, also one of the options is reviewing curriculum. Like what do we need to review in our school day that maybe we're missing, that is causing kind of this like trend in behavior or challenges to arise. And so, yeah, I feel like I had a stronger pulse on students in the past year during the pandemic, and I know that they were struggling a lot. And I know they still are too, but I think being able to be in person and with their friends is helpful, but it also, we hear it all the time in terms of the students are so different from how we remember them to be. And this piece is around behavior and being able to know how to ask for help or do simple things like taking notes or writing a paragraph. Like it's frustrating for staff, I think, because they're not where they remember the students being in terms of comprehension or abilities. And it's taken a lot of patience, I think, and grace and reminders that we've all gone through this, like together. And we think it's normal now, but it's not at all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to say that thank you for doing all this work and obviously bringing these voices to policy. And just looking forward to what comes next from our students and, of course, our staff and our families in the classrooms, on campus at large, and in student groups, and, of course, in building community schools and the work we're doing district-wide. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Anything else? Ms. Garrett?
I already went through the presentation on Saturday, so thank you for it. I just want to make a couple of comments and to thank you for not just cutting the mold off the bread and actually, really finding the root cause, which is really important, I think. And, I just want to speak from personal experience that the reason why we're already this far advanced is because you all have already been doing this in the making and officially for a long time, because I have personally benefited from Ms. Basuino, Ms. Casey, Dr. Marenko, from all the work that you do at Thornton. And just even like, Ms. Basuino was the first person that I met, and she does remember this, when I first walked into this school district office, not knowing what's going on and but just really trying to be proactively engaging with my stepson and saying, well, what can we do to get him to where he needs to be? And she was, so receptive and so supportive and encouraging. And that's why we're where we're at today with the solution matrix, because you've already started the process and just really trying to bring it together as a whole. So I really do appreciate that. It's close to my heart because I personally benefited from this process. So I appreciate you all and applaud all your efforts. So thank you.
Yeah, you really hit the nail on the head with, you have to have the heart and the soul to go here. That's what's in this district, and for us to go here, to be receptive, that this is something we want. I'm sorry, I missed, I was really bummed to miss your presentation that weekend. But I was there when you presented to the students at advisory, and it was really good to see their reactions. And, but I'm really, and that this isn't done. You're saying we're still getting more input. I love that. Thank you for that. And thank you for all your work. Looking forward to seeing this implemented wherever we land, when it's ready, not forcing it. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Got clapping on
Applaud mood
Saturday.
right now.
No, it's all good.
Get her on camera, please. Ms. Pasquino. Okay, so now we're going to go to action items, and we're going to return to the pulled item of item 12A11, and that was the translation and interpretation services. So, Mr. Ojapinti, did you have questions about that contract?
Questions and/or comments? Yeah. Obviously, first I want to just welcome our translator and interpreter, Noemi Gonzalez Rocha, to our district, and I think being an integral part of this, our board meetings, and anything else that will require translation and interpreting, which I believe not only is essential for our community who can access it in real time, but obviously online, so that people can access this later when they have time, either after work or in time of the weekend, and to be able to play a part in our district and feel welcome as a part. And so, yes, I want to say welcome, bienvenidos, to our district. Obviously, our interpreter and translator cannot necessarily respond here in this meeting, but I would encourage, of course, online participating wherever possible. That said, this is, to my knowledge, my first question would be, this is for Spanish language interpretation and translation, correct?
Correct.
Are there any other languages currently being translated or interpreted, or are we starting just with Spanish and then to see?
Just with Spanish.
Okay. Understanding the linguistic needs in our community, I appreciate that, obviously. Being Latino and, coming from a family of many generations where I'm still relearning. I am learning Spanish myself as somebody who grew up in a community where we have many things translated, but not everywhere we need to have them, and of course in public institutions like our schools. Appreciating our presentation from the last meeting around ELD, around English language development, and our students learning English in our community, in our district. These services are vital, they are essential, And I'm looking forward to expanding on this, not just as an endpoint of providing service, but as a starting point for every language and every culture that our district represents. And so thank you again to our translator and interpreter and our district for taking action on this at this point in the year.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve this
Motion.
contract?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so now on to item 15A1, Resolution 2021-22/18, Maintenance Assessment District. Ms. Van Raphorst.
Thank you, President Tejada. Good evening, members of the board. In 1991, the JUHSD Maintenance Assessment District was formed, and since then, the district has been receiving funds to help us offset the costs of our facilities. Every year, there are a series of steps the board must take in order to maintain this income, and this is one of those steps, so I recommend the adoption of this resolution.
Approve the resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 16, consideration of future agenda items.
That's item 15B1.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Counselor on special assignment.
I am rusty. So item 15B1, so that's the job description for counselor on special assignment for career technical education. Ms. Baca?
President Tejada, thank you, members of the board. So a strong presence of career exploration and work-based learning support is essential in establishing a comprehensive CTE program. So the counselor on special assignment will work with our CTE coordinator and other school counselors in facilitating students' acquisitions of attitudes, knowledge, and skills needed to achieve positive post-secondary career outcomes. Increased attention to career-focused education will help improve students' readiness for workplace demands. So before you is a job description for a counselor on special assignment that will be fully grant funded for the CTE program, and it is recommended that the board approve this job description.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now for consideration of future agenda items. None?
I have one.
Okay.
I will forward to you. I have been working with Paul Bocanegra
Oh, yeah.
and his organization, and they are they're trying to see if they can get other municipalities to support a resolution to see if the county can no longer try youth as adults. We're currently one of the few counties that still do that. And so when that happens, youth as young as 13, 14 are placed in adult facilities, and that's extremely dangerous. So he has a resolution that he presented to the Board of Supervisors, and we're trying to see if we can get as many local municipalities to also pass the resolution in support as well, so that they can move forward with DA Wagstaff.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, that is noted. Yes.
Yeah, this is one thing I think that's important. Resolutions are important, I think, in whatever policy is being considered. I think it helps to express that support from the school district level on relevant issues. One, of course, being one I mentioned earlier around a woman's right to choose and in support of reproductive rights and gender equity. I would encourage our board adopting a resolution in support of defending a woman's right to choose, and whatever policy is being considered at the White House, which President Biden has signaled, as well as many legislators at the federal and state level and local level, that we also support and pass a resolution in defense of that as well. I'd like to see that in a future agenda item. And I can look for some of those resolutions being promoted as well. Thank you.
Else? Do we have a motion to adjourn? Oh, yes. Actually, we're, motion to adjourn open session and return to closed session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.